So we're continuing with 650 Bible prayers. We're going to do Exodus 34, which is prayers and transfiguration. So in Exodus 34, Moses had spent 40 days on the mountain with God when he learned that his people were holding a wild party down below. So he threw down in anger and the stone tablets with the 10 commandments on them because he was fully disgusted and he broke them. So now it was time to start over. So then he had to get a new set of stone tablets. So that's where we're starting. So the Lord said to Moses, cut 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I will write on them the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke. Be prepared by morning. Come up Mount Sinai in the morning and stand before me on the mountaintop. No one may go up with you. In fact, no one should be seen anywhere on the mountain. Even the flocks and the herds are not to graze in front of that mountain. That goes to show you just how sacred the mountain itself was. Because God inscribed on both the tablets, the first and the second one, because remember, since Moses broke the first one. And let's continue at verse 4. Moses cut 2 stone tablets like the first ones. So he got up early in the morning and taking the 2 stone tablets in his hand, he climbed Mount Sinai, just as the Lord had commanded him. So the Lord came down in a cloud, stood with him there, and proclaimed his name. The Lord passed in front of him and proclaimed, the Lord is a compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger and abounding in faithful love and truth, maintaining faithful love to 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity, rebellion, and sin. But he will not leave the guilty unpunished, bringing the father's iniquity on the children and grandchildren of the 3rd and 4th generation. This is the sin that people often refer to when they say generational sins that affects 3-4 generations down. Okay, so we continue on verse 8. Moses immediately knelt low on the ground and worshipped. Then he said, my Lord, if I have indeed found favor with you, my Lord, please go with us, even though this is a stiff-necked people. Forgive our iniquity and our sin and accept us as your own possession. Now we already know God has constantly said throughout his word that he would never forsake us and never leave us. So let's continue in verse 10. So we have the covenant obligations are what we're discussing next. So in verse 10, and the Lord responded, look, I am making a covenant. I will perform wonders in the presence of your people that have never been done in the whole earth or in any nation. All the people you live among will see the Lord's work. For what I am doing with you is awe-inspiring. Observe what I command you today. I am going to drive out before you the Ammonites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Be careful not to make a treaty with the inhabitants of the land that you are going to enter. Otherwise, they will become a snare among you. Now, here where we just read about making a treaty, these are the covenants. When you sit with people, that's a covenant. When you sit and eat with people, if you shake hands with people, if you kiss people, if you hug people, there are certain, and their intention is evil amongst you, witchcraft in any way, shape, or form. Those are informal agreements. You may not be aware of it, but the person casting the spell definitely knows what they're doing. In fact, a covenant can be as simple as a promise or you saying yes to something by just saying the word yes, or saying the word no. You've now negated yourself out of something that you were already guaranteed by God, because the word is how God formed the world. He pronounced the world into existence by speaking the word. So if you speak out of your mouth and say a word that devil might be, or that individual in front of you who has evil intentions might be coercing you to say, even though they coerce you in that direction, it's called deception. And they've now had you to say out of your mouth something that you should not have been saying. A covenant could also be something you have signed, that's notarized, or a contract. So clearly you can enter into a covenant without even knowing that you've entered into one, but you've formed an agreement with someone. Okay, so we pick up back at verse 13. Instead, you must tear down their altars, smash their sacred pillars, and chop down their Asherah poles. Because the Lord is jealous for his reputation, you are never to bow down to another God. He is a jealous God. we already know that you don't want to walk into, to give yourself to any temptation, to join into any false worship. Unfortunately, it does happen to people unknowingly. But if you watch anything in Hollywood media, it becomes quite evident. But anyway, we continue in verse 15. Do not make a treaty with the inhabitants of the land, or else when they prostitute themselves with their gods and sacrifice to their gods, they will invite you and you will eat their sacrifices. Then you will take some of their daughters as brides for your sons. Their daughters will prostitute themselves with their gods and cause your sons to prostitute themselves with their gods. Do not make cased images of gods for yourselves. Observe the festival of unleavened bread. You are to eat unleavened bread for 7 days at the appointed time in the month of Abib. Although it says Abib here, I'm pretty sure they really, anyway, it's referring to Nisan, the month of Nisan. So as commanded to you, for you came out of Egypt in the month of Abib, which is Nisan. The firstborn male from every womb belongs to me, including all your male livestock, the firstborn of cattle or sheep. You may redeem the firstborn of a donkey with a sheep, but if you do not redeem it, break its neck. You must redeem all the firstborn of your sons. No one is to appear before me empty-handed. So you see the massive significance of being a firstborn child here. From a biblical standpoint, there's tremendous weight on your shoulders because you carry many of the blessings of the family as a firstborn child. But that's a topic for another day. Then we'll continue on verse 21. You are to labor 6 days, but you must rest on the 7th day. You must even rest during plowing and harvesting times. Verse 22. Observe the Feast of Weeks with the first fruits of the wheat harvest and the festival of ingathering. And the festival of ingathering, which is the festival of shelters, at the turn of the agricultural year. So 3 times a year, all your males are to appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. For I will drive out nations before you and enlarge your territory. So 3 times a year that is to occur, where God literally drives away your enemies and enlarges your territory. This particular time right now is one of them, the time of Nisan, moving into Passover. No one will cover your land. No one will cover your land when you go up 3 times a year to appear before the Lord your God. So that basically makes you impenetrable so long as you stay in covenant with the Lord God Almighty and you stay on this covenant, revisiting and willing yourself to the promises 3 times a year. So basically every quarter or thereof. Okay, then let's continue in verse 25. Do not present the blood for my sacrifice with anything leavened. The sacrifice of the Passover festival must not remain until morning. Bring the best first fruits of your land to the house of the Lord your God. You must not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. The Lord also said to Moses, write down these words, for I have made a covenant with you and with Israel based on these words. So we do recall that in giving Israel guidelines for living, God was establishing their covenant relationship. And this is the covenant relationship we still rely on today, that same permanent relationship that was given to our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So he was letting them know what he expected here and how they should live. And that became quite clear. So then we can go over to verse 28. So Moses was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did not eat food or drink water for 40 days and 40 nights. He wrote the 10 commandments, the words of the covenant, on the tablets. Wow. So we can see it's clear that Moses fasts without food and water for 40 days on Mount Sinai, 40 days and 40 nights, thus showing his commitment to the covenant. So then we go on to verses 29 to 35, where we talk about Moses's radiant face. And here we're showing that Moses's face glowed and everyone could see it. So today, a glowing face, would just signify happiness, which they often say like a glowing bride or pregnancy glow, those kind of things. So, and as you often see, anyone who has this veil of happiness on their face will essentially always be in some way, in whatever the environment is, the people around them will be disturbed by just how happy they are to do, and therefore try to do much to take them down. But essentially, let's start again. We're going to verse 29. As Moses descended from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hands, as he descended the mountain, he did not realize that the skin on his face shone as a result of his speaking with the Lord. So here's what I was referring to when I said the glow of happiness. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, the skin on his face shone. They were afraid to come near him. This is the natural intimidation that people have when the glory of God is upon you. Then we'll pick up on verse 30. Okay. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses and the skin on his face shone, they were afraid to come near him, but Moses called out to them. So Aaron and all the leaders of the community returned to him, and Moses spoke to them. Afterward, all the Israelites came near and commanded them to do everything the Lord had told them on Mount Sinai. When Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil on his face, but whenever Moses went before the Lord to speak with him, he would remove the veil until he came out. So here we see Moses wore the veil over his face, but not with people and not before God. After he came out, he would tell the Israelites what he had been commanded, and the Israelites would see that Moses' face was radiant. Then Moses would put the veil over his face again until he went to speak with the Lord. It's interesting that Moses continued to wear the veil even after the glow began to fade, because the fact that he continually put on the veil when he was speaking when he was not speaking with the people, and he took off the veil so that his face is bare before God. There's definitely a significance there.